So there are increased calls by some private sector individuals for migrant labor to fill various job openings in the country as a result of the low unemployment rate. And to have this discussion, we have the first Vice President of the Jamaica Employers Federation, Clifton Reader, and he's zooming in. Good morning, Clifton. How are you?
Good morning, Delia. How are you doing?
I'm good. Here with my girl, Simone. Glad to have you.
Hi, Simone.
Hi
How
there.
are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for asking.
All right, so I'm going to start first. Because this is something we've been discussing on and off on the show. What's your stance on this whole issue of migrant workers?
Okay, as you said before, on Morning Jamaica, I'm representing Jeff on this matter. And we believe that the importation of skilled labor should not be at the detriment of similarly skilled Jamaican labor. Mm-hmm. It is very important that we exhaust every single possibility of finding labor locally. And sometimes it's a matter of matching supply with demand, because I know that the Ministry of Labor, they have the Jamaica labor market information system, and they basically put together a number of resumes and encourage employers to post their jobs so that there can be a match.
Mm. You raised something though, and I'm wondering if that's the challenge, because is it that there are job openings but we don't have the skill set? Is that what the challenge is?
In quite a few cases, yes. And remember, there's a mechanism for that as well through the Ministry of Labor. Mm-hmm. Because if we are in short supply of a skill set, I will put out an ad. The advert will run for a couple of weeks. If I cannot find anybody, I will basically send an application to the ministry requesting to import those skill sets. To the extent that they can go in their data bank, find people, they will send to me. If they can't find anybody, then I believe they meet periodically. They have a board that meet and will assess my need as an employer and will give permission to import those skills. But the point is, when you get those skill sets, there must be a transfer of knowledge and skills. Mm-hmm. You can't bring in people. I know years ago, I sat on one of the lead groups for HART, and one of the things that we insisted, and it's still a part of the importation of labor through the Ministry of Labor, mm-hmm. where you bring in, say, a chef. That chef should have 2 understudies. So if you give them a 2-year work permit, they're here basically for the 2 years to train locals to take over from them when they leave. So if we implement those kind of things, then we will develop as we go along. The next thing that we have to ensure is that we have a proper labor market study so that we can identify the gaps. Because without identifying the gaps, we are training just for numbers.
Yeah. You've mentioned those 2 things, but those 2 things are things that are to happen and need to happen in order to help the situation. But if you listen to the business leaders who are making this call, they are saying that the issue is now. What do we do now? You say we have to exhaust all options before we talk about importing labor, but what these businessmen are saying is that we have exhausted all the options, and what we're seeing is that there's no other option but to bring folks in. Richard Pando, he's CEO of Separate, says while the issue of worker shortage in various disciplines has been articulated over the last year, each day without a solution is only kicking the can down the road. We have Andrew Mafood from Wisynco saying they're looking all over for engineers and skilled machine operators. And they're saying right now they're making the call because the issue is chronic.
And as I said before, this is the time for them to make the application to Ministry of Labor. And to the extent those skills are not available locally, then we agree they should be imported.
I want to throw a spoke in the wheel, Clifton Reader. There are folks who say there's a shortage because the compensation is extremely low. And they feel that bringing in migrant workers is a way of keeping the labor cheap. That we're going to bring people in who are desperate enough for work that they will take whatever is being offered, instead of saying, well, listen, I need skilled workers, I'm going to up the pay and see if I can attract more people to that area. What are your comments on a statement like that?
Well, again, I believe that everybody should be paid a living wage, and we can't just bring in people and pay them cheaply and expect to get Jamaicans to be satisfied with that, because you'd only be taking away from Jamaicans and give to somebody else. So again, I believe that what we're looking for are skill sets. And where we're looking for, even at the line level, if they're not available locally, then the Ministry of Labour is there basically to be the referee, to say these people are coming in, they, one, cannot be paid less than our minimum wage, for sure. But another thing we must look at as well, we have to look at a lot of schools, for instance, are on the southern part of Jamaica, the south coast, right? A lot of employees there, I for one, would not be on the north coast if accommodation was not part of my package coming to the north coast. And I didn't come on as a full manager, but hotels then provided accommodations. And what is happening now that is good for employees, whether we want to raise the pay or not ourselves, the shift in demand, where we now have more, for the first time in my working life, we have a 4.5% employment rate, which means that the demand for work is pressing the wage to go up. All wages will go up after this. And indeed, surveys done are showing this, where employers are paying more to attract, and those who refuse to pay more are basically left behind and people are leaving them. So we have to be very careful, because once the market forces take place, then it will just even out everything and employees will basically be paid more, whether or not employers want to be paying that amount or not.
Yeah. So what is your word then, as we wrap the interview? Last question from me, to the employers. Are you telling them to hold straight? Are you saying, well, if you're at a desperate point, make the relevant applications? What are you saying to them, high level? They seem to be worried.
I am just saying to all employers, make sure you pay a living wage, you ensure that your employees are productive by giving productivity incentives, and ensure that you follow that system of Ministry of Labour, where if you decide that you need additional employees and they are not available locally in the skill set that you need, then you should apply, and there's absolutely no reason, I believe, why the ministry should not allow it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir. We just have to keep our eyes on this one and see how it goes. Sure. First Vice President of the Jamaica Employers Federation, Clifton Reader.
After the break, we're having a chat with a partially blind law student who's just got her degree. Tajera Horton is up on the other side of this break.